How's it going, everybody? It is episode 51 here on Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helly, Hunter Hughes back with you. We had Timmy Chang last week. We got another guest this week. We talked to Braden McInnis of Spectrum News, their digital sports journalist, to talk about his impressions of camp, as well as some of the stories that he's been covering with the University of Hawaii football program. A big mahalo to our sponsors, Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. And a reminder that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, we record this Tuesday about 1:35 p.m. Hawaii time. This will be released as usual on Thursday, and we are in the penultimate week before the start of the season. A quick opening drive. Just wanted to send a big mahalo once again to Coach Timmy Chang for coming on for episode 50. He was great. Got a lot of great reaction to the interview, Hunter. Something we talk about a little bit in our interview with Braden McInnis as well, which we'll get to in the second half of this episode. He has just been really giving with his time to the media, to folks that just want to kind of just talk story with him, and had a lot of fun. Some of the big takeaways for me, Hunter, just his excitement with things, how intentional I think things have been, from the community outreach to the branding to the way that they kind of went out and attacked the transfer portal, and then also the coaching staff, right? Which I think was pretty cool to get him on the pod, because I think that's something that he hasn't necessarily gotten into all that much in depth, where he basically went like right down the coaching roster, kind of unprompted, but I think speaks a lot to the trust he has in these guys, the excitement he has to be working with his guys, and just how intentional everything has been to this point, as they now, are basically, once this gets released, 9 days out from the season opener.
Absolutely. And for those listening at home, right before the interview, we found Coach Timmy Chang putting down Liliha Poi Donuts. So maybe if we're looking for a new sponsor for Timmy specifically, I think he would be very interested in what Liliha would have to offer. But it's been absolutely fantastic, Jordan, having him as our new coach. I think in Division I football, but primarily with Hawaii, if you take the head coaching job, in some ways you're just as big as the mayor of Honolulu. You're right on up there with holding the babies, taking the pictures, needing to have your voice be heard on topical local politics issues. It's a big deal. It's bigger than just football, and I feel like Timmy has risen to the occasion with poise and with grace, and it's just been fantastic, man. Being down there at practice as well, watching how he conducts practice in a non-emotional manner. It's a very non-reactionary style of coaching. Everybody does it a little bit different. But the one thing that really captivates me is the way that he respects his players. That they demand excellence just like anybody. They're trying to accomplish things at a high level, but there seems to be a teacher's first kind of a mentality in the way that they teach the game and the way that they coach the game. I think Coach Shoemaker is one of those guys. I played for Coach Yoro as well as Coach Abe Elamimian. Coach Ursula, very much from that same sort of bark as well, of these guys love to teach the game of football, and they see these guys as individuals first. Bringing in Coach Reinbold as the director of player development. It seems like they care about these guys, and I'm saying the guys, these players as people as much as they care about them as players. And as a former player myself, I pay attention to those things because I've seen it done quite differently in the past, and not always with the most grace with previous regimes. And so I am so happy for the guys that are lucky enough to call themselves football players during this era. I wish I could go back there again and try to find myself a fifth or sixth year. Could we say that COVID started in 2017, Jordan? Because I want to get back out there.
Yeah, you got the way some of these guys have been able to extend their eligibility is pretty interesting. And I think to your point as well, prospective students, right? Recruits, they notice those kinds of things as well. So we'll switch into the game time here again, coming up in part two, our second half, and McInnis of Spectrum News, digital sports journalist, formerly of the Honolulu Star Advertiser, formerly of Pacific Business News, as a veteran in the Hawaii local media scene. Fun conversation coming up in the second half. All right, wanted to get into, as we mentioned right at the release of this episode, basically 9 days out from the start of the season, UH will have turned the focus to the Vanderbilt prep. They had a mock game, kind of went through the dress rehearsal, if you will, today, here on Tuesday. Word is they may get a day off tomorrow, and then Thursday, it's basically Vandy prep, right? It's Vanderbilt next week, Saturday. As a guy who's sort of been through this, kind of talk us through the feeling at this point in camp. What's that switch like from the grind of camp? It's a lot of self-focus to, all right, now we're into it, and it is every week's going to be like this, where it's a new prep. You got to get ready. There's the install, and you got to be ready to adapt week to week with each unique opponent.
Yeah, it's more than just a halfway point in camp. It's kind of a turning of the page from the practice point of the year in football, which the whole time throughout the spring, you're competing against the defense. The defense is competing against the offense. And now that we have made the shift into game prep for Vandy, it's a completely different mindset. You're no longer watching. You watch a little bit of film on yourself, but you're watching film on the other team, which is very interesting from our opponent's perspective. I don't know what film they are looking up. We've talked about this in the past. That they are making their best estimated guess of what our offense is going to be, which is very advantageous for us. But as a player, you are now making the shift into, okay, what role do I fit into? What sort of scheme do I fit into? And how does that scheme combat what Vanderbilt is going to show us? And so it's a completely different mind shift, Jordan. From a practice perspective, now you institute a scout team, both on the offense and the defensive side of the football. Practice is now split up, where first team defense is over kind of on the west side of the practice field, and then subsequently the offense is over on the east. And then everybody reconvenes for special teams as well. But it's go time, man. It's time to go after Vandy now.
Yeah, I think it's a exciting time, right? Where it's like, all right, let's get after it here. And I've been able to kind of observe practice and kind of see these things, what would kind of be the gauge in terms of preparation, you, from an outside observer's perspective, do they look kind of, ready and prepared to go and make this transition here? Would you say that camp in itself was successful in getting them to this point?
I would say yes. It's always a tough gauge to put your stamp of approval on a team of, okay, I saw that play. That was fantastic. Bring on Vanderbilt. Let's go. Because there's many different ways of winning a football game. You could win it in the trenches. You could win it with clock strategy and placement on the field. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into winning a football game. It feels like this team is a family. I feel like they have done the work there in unifying this group of guys, which we were not unified 7-8 months ago in January, at the conclusion of last season, all but unified, man. It was bad. And to get everybody bought in as a team under a new coaching regime, 53 new guys into the onto the roster. There's a lot of moving pieces here. I know that the guys that will be on the field come Vanderbilt will be the guys that have won the job, because none of these players that are here were necessarily recruited, maybe except for some of the guys through the transfer portal. I want to put that on there. But the majority of these guys were not recruited out of high school by this coaching staff. So there's not a whole lot of loyalty that this coaching staff has towards these players. It's really who is the best guy for that particular position. And so that's what we're going to see here in the next week or so of, okay, who isn't on scout team, who is taking the majority of the 1s and 2s reps. That will give us the best idea of what we have headed into Vandy.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Of course, other big question with the quarterback competition. The thing, I just want to mention this, even though there's not a really whole lot to report, not a whole lot to update, at least as of now. Again, here on Tuesday, the 16th of August. The latest, kind of feel is it's still the same quartet that's in the running with Braden Schager and Joey Yellen, Cameron Cooper, and Jake Farrell. But I know Armani Eden is still getting some reps as well. So I guess the news there is that there really is no news. I'm very intrigued next week when the 2 deep comes out, right? When it comes out as part of the game prep. Now, then they're not beholden to that or anything like that. You can always throw a little wrench or curveball in it. But I am pretty curious to see what that 2 deep looks like, not just a quarterback, but a number of different positions. So I guess, we bring it up, but there's not a whole lot new to discuss when it comes to that topic.
Yeah, it almost feels like we're not doing our job, Jordan. But to tell you the truth, there's really not much to report on. And being down there at practice, seeing firsthand, and we'll get into that in our talk with Brian as well. Outside of maybe observing different players poise, the different quarterbacks and how they handle kind of managing the offense, that's really the only thing that I can point to of, okay, that's what coaches look for in a starting quarterback. Because from a skill perspective, I mean, it's very comparable between guys. I still think Braden Schager throws the best ball of any of them. From a poise perspective and a calmness, I'd say Jake Farrell has that calmness in the pocket. I haven't seen a whole lot from Cam Cooper or Joey Yellen just yet in terms of reps that would make me think, okay, these guys are absolutely ready to go, given the fact that they've only been here for a short bit of time. But again, I'm not in those quarterback meetings. I'm not in those offensive meetings as well, to hear these guys' minds, hear how they are picking up reads, making decisions. Armani Eden's a phenomenal leader. And so again, like that's kind of just giving the scouting report of each of the quarterbacks as kind of what I see it right now. But I'm intrigued as well, Jordan, because I think a big part of an identity of a team is establishing who your quarterback's going to be. It's bigger than just an offense. It's for the entirety of the team in general. So, I want to say you got to make that decision in the next week, and yet we're recording a podcast. We're not the head coach. So it's completely up to them how they want to go about this. But I think I'm more erring on the side of excited than worried with this, because everything that Timmy's done in the first 7-8 months has been great. I know we'll be ready come next Saturday.
Yeah, and that's why I think, I'm with you. It's more anticipation than concern at this point. We'll see what that 2 deep looks like next week. Did want to make one quick mention before we hit the halftime here. Single game tickets on sale. They went on sale yesterday on Monday to start the week. You can check that out on the Hawaii Athletics website. They got all the links there. We talked about season ticket sales going online just the other week. We get into some of that conversation with Brian McInnis in part 2, so we'll save a little bit of the discussion for that, but did want to alert everybody, go ahead, check it out. Still tickets available for Vandy, kind of in pockets here and there. But good to see that. I think, for the most part, the Ching is filling up quite nicely with the different avenues to go purchase tickets. So we'll see how that all plays out. All right, coming up second half, we got BMAC on deck. as well as we get to some of your comments and close this one out here on episode 51.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, here we are with our guy, Brian McInnis, Spectrum News, digital sports journalist. Sounds very official, but be sure to check his stuff out. You can get it on the Spectrum News app as well as online. He's been doing a lot of stuff covering everything that has to do with local sports, from UH to some of the professional events, all the way down to high school youth events. BMAC's got you covered. And so BMAC, we figured after episode 50, we needed to just keep things rolling and just bring in high profile guests.
That's right.
Because the bar is so incredibly high after we got head coach Timmy Chang on last week. And so we figured who better than BMAC. So thanks. No pressure.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that, Jordan. I really appreciate the timing, and Hunter, you as well. Hey, nothing screams episode 51 more than Brian McInnis. So
That's right.
Let's do this. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, as long as it's better than like a Star Wars prequel, we figure we're in okay shape, and just how we can move forward with all of this. You've been down at practice a whole bunch, BMAC. You were down there today, I believe, which may or may not have been a mistake, because at this point they're kind of the practices, they get a little repetitive. I know they went through some mock game situations and whatnot, but it also happened to be move-in day, if I'm not mistaken, for those living on campus at the University of Hawaii. You guys know all about this, but I didn't go there, maybe just only to avoid a move-in day. Yeah, so did you avoid the chaos, or how'd this work for you today, BMAC? Because I know you're back home as you record this with us.
Yeah, I'm back in Kailua. I escaped the carpocalypse known as moving day at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. There was a mock game held at the Clarence T.C. Chang Athletic Complex field today. So, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. I did miss their previous scrimmage on Saturday. So, doubly important for me to be there today. I realized with some horror as I approached campus, when I saw the buildup of cars, like somewhere in the back of my mind, like I knew roughly what time of year it was. Had not explicitly heard that today was the first of move-in days at the University of Hawaii. And when that realization came over me, a little bit of panic set in, because I saw just what kind of backup was happening along Dole Street of panicked drivers trying to, shepherd their kids to campus, probably a lot of whom for the first time. So I had to do a U-turn, get creative, go to upper campus, park in the middle of upper campus, pay for parking, and then walk down there to the Chang complex. But made it, caught the majority of that mock game that they held today with Coach Chang and his guys. So it ended well. It just took probably another hour to get off campus as all the tendrils of parking chaos extended in all directions, buses blocking intersections, and people making crazy maneuvers to escape the madness. So we're all good now, though, thankfully.
We're glad you made it in one piece. Kind of on the same topic of parking and those logistics, J-Mac, would love to know your perspective. For those of us as players, we've always dreamed of one day having the game day environment on campus. And now this will be third season of the TC Chang complex being down there. I've always dreamed, if we shut down upper campus, basically everything on top of the hill, in terms of grass fields, parking on upper campus, and had it be a campus-wide game day environment full of tailgating, the band playing, we could have a very special campus and just have everybody walk down the field to the game. I mean, could you foresee something like that? I mean, take away the driving maneuvers that you saw today. I mean, dream with me for a second. Do you think that could potentially be possible?
Hey, I will say that the spring game that they held, the Island Day, festivities in April, that was a good start, definitely. And that did primarily pretty much all involve lower campus. But I will say that, yeah, I think there is definitely some potential for there being some kind of upper campus activities as well, if they totally, embrace these home dates, if not the 7 home dates this year, then maybe build something going into next year. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of space on Upper Campus when you think about all the different parking lots that are there. I mean, something at Campus Center, the Warrior Recreation Center, that seems like a natural venue to have some kind of cheer thing going, or some kind of festivities, really. So Timmy Chang alluded to it when he took the job, and he envisioned this kind of sprawling campus-wide festival on game days, and there's still a lot of ways to go to make that happen. But yeah, Hunter, I think there's definitely something maybe brewing as far as that goes with what I saw back in April.
Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting because I guess you get the mock game and you get a little bit of the mock traffic situation that comes with getting thousands of people onto camp. If only there was some sort of mass transit option to get people to and from.
Oh boy, are we going there?
Population centers. I digress a little bit here. What did you? I had to throw that in. To get to the mock game, BMAC, what did that entail? What did you see out of it? Some general thoughts and impressions of the mock game that you so bravely fought through traffic to get to and from.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to really put the guys through their paces as far as when and where they needed to be at all times on a simulated game day, from charging out through where that inflatable helmet would be normally in the corner of the field, facing the Stan Sheriff Center arena. No inflatable helmet today, but they came running out of there. They did a pregame haka or ha'a, if you will. They did simulated game action with officials on the field like they would in some of their past scrimmages. At halftime, in air quotes, they went all back into the locker rooms, held a team meeting, I want to say, for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then they all came back out and did some more scrimmage action with the referees. So there was a lot of special teams work in there today, some situational stuff, some kind of creative stuff they were doing with special teams, not to give away exactly what they were doing, but
thank you, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, with only a couple of fans in the stands otherwise, and a handful of media like myself, you could definitely get a sense of what they were trying to do out there.
Sure. Without alluding to much in terms of strategy, because we're on team Coach Timmy Chang, trying to keep everything in-house as much as possible here. But for those listening at home, who at the quarterback position, from your observation today, took the majority of the reps?
It's interesting, Hunter. They're still being very egalitarian as far as how they treat the quarterback position. I was thinking I would maybe show up today and I'd see Braden Schager, who is ostensibly the front runner based on what us media types have just observed, or honestly any fan in the stand could observe. He's been, since the spring, probably the front runner throughout, but it wasn't necessarily that he was taking any greater share of reps today than any of the other guys who are in theory still in contention for that starting job, whether it's Cameron Cooper and Joey Yellen and Jake Farrell. I mean, all those guys. Armani Eden even got some work today. So
awesome.
It's still been those 4 or 5 guys, in the orange jerseys, still getting put through their paces out there. And yeah, I don't know exactly when Timmy Chang will decide to officially name a guy. He certainly didn't do it after practice today. The question was posed to him again. So he's certainly been very patient as far as that goes.
For sure. With where the roster's at, we've got 53 new guys on this team. Probably just like, Jordan and myself, we're having to familiarize with who these guys even are, rather than, just who they are on the field, but who are these guys as people as well. But anybody from this new crop of talent, pique your interest in the couple times you've been at practice?
Yeah, man. One guy who I think has turned a lot of heads in the pass catching game is their new tight end, Jordan Murray, out of Missouri State. I can't be the first one who's probably mentioned that name on your podcast, and
he's a monster
for good reason. I've been calling him Calvin Turner Sr. out there because He sports the number 7, and he looks like he could be Calvin Turner's daddy, just in terms of his size and presence out there.
Calvin,
He's
nothing
got
but
good
love
hands.
if you're listening. We love you, man.
Yeah, he's got good hands, and could be a very meaningful player for them at that tight end spot. That Timmy Chang seems pretty high on really integrating to this new hybrid offense that he's looking to implement.
Yeah, Hunter also a big fan of Murray, and I think it's hard not to be when you see him run around the field and just be incredibly athletic and large. And
I don't want him to come after me if I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, that's true. That's true when it comes down to it. And so, BMAC, a lot of the talk now is this transition, right? Where they make the move from really focusing on camp, kind of getting through that, and now with the mock game that kind of signals the turning of the page, if you will, to get ready for Vanderbilt. Just sort of, and I know you're there just about every day in some of these, and you get in the scrum at the end of practice and whatnot. Has the focus, at least outwardly, sort of shifted in some of the comments? Are you hearing a little bit more of that, where it's like, all right, you're getting a little more Vanderbilt talk as opposed to, general talk from these guys?
Yeah, Jordan, I think today was the official turning of the page from, wrapping up camp, breaking camp, and now it's all about scout for Vanderbilt. I think they're taking tomorrow off from practice, at least that's the last I heard, and then resuming on Thursday. And with that understanding being it's full go for Vanderbilt prep from here until basically August 27th. So prior to that, I've been trying to go a few times a week to their practices. Hadn't honestly seen a lot of specific Vanderbilt stuff prior to this. So I'm expecting next time I go out there for things to be a little different for sure.
Well, let's hope move-in days are done by the next time you get back out there. At least they gave you and the rest of the media tomorrow off, where you don't have to brave things down there on campus. What have you been? We've talked about this kind of at length on the pod, Hunter and I, and we hear it from folks, and we get it in some of the comments in some of our videos. But just sort of your impressions. You've covered University of Hawaii athletics for a long time. You've been around the football program here over the last number of years as well. But what are sort of your impressions from just your personal standpoint of the Timmy Chang regime so far, of how things have gone, how it's sort of been with him as the head guy in sort of your, from your angle, whether covering the team or just as a follower of the program?
Yeah, well, I will say that Coach Chang has been nothing but gracious and accommodating. First off, from just purely a media perspective of being available after any given practice. You can approach him. You can ask him basically anything in the scrum setting, and he's answered. I can't think of a question where he's declined to answer, or because it's too revealing or too controversial or anything like that. And then you could also approach him in a one-on-one setting. A guy like me who's not at one of the biggest media entities in town, Spectrum News. We're an up-and-coming outfit, and he's happy to give me as much time as I need. So first off, from that perspective, I give him all the credit in the world. And then also from as far as his engagement with the community, I mean, I think we've all seen him out there doing the right things, saying the right things. He's obviously a familiar face going back to his St. Louis school days and on to the University of Hawaii, where he became this, record-setting QB. And then I think a lot of us maybe lost track or lost touch of what happened to Timmy Chang as far as his coaching career. And I know football diehards, I'm sure, followed at least where he was from, SMU to Nevada to go to Colorado State until the Hawaii job opened up. And for me, it's kind of been a revelation, honestly, to see him back here and seeing who he's become from the player that I was, a college student. I was roughly in school, in university at the same time as Timmy was. So he's become a polished, speaker, a polished, I think, leader of men. And I think a lot of the guys have bought into his persona, his leadership style, which isn't the most flashy, the most showy, but I think everyone can tell he speaks genuinely and he means well. So I think for a lot of the guys, maybe that's been a bit of a turnaround from maybe the experience they had with the previous coaching regime, and that's something that I think David Matlin was certainly looking for when he made that hire, and so far he's gotten it. Now we'll all wait and see what kind of level of success they have on the field, which as we know counts for the lion's share once the season gets going. They certainly had a lot to replace, a lot of new faces to bring in, and from a talent perspective, I mean, it could be a little while till they get back to even where they were last year, but the guys that have bought in for what that's worth, and I think at this stage that's worth a lot.
Yeah, it's great to hear, man. Just like my co-host, you follow the local high school scene pretty. Anybody already turning your head right now? I know we're just a couple weeks into the high school season, but any teams that are really turning your head, or players as well that you're kind of impressed with at this point in the year?
Well, I did get to go see Kahuku play on its new turf field in their first game against Kamehameha, and they certainly were everything they're billed as, as the defending Open Division state champ, bringing back so many talented players on both sides of the ball, and they looked the part of a national, should be like nationally ranked kind of caliber of a team. So they've got guys who committed to go off other places like Utah and Texas. I am curious to see the Kiawe Sagapolutele kid with Punahou, the quarterback who's committed to UH. I'll probably catch him in the next week or two. But yeah, man, there's so many talented, like Farrington's offensive lineman who was at St. Louis last year, Poncho, everyone knows him by. I mean, he's looked, great, even in a loss last week at Kapolei. So there's so many teams I'm curious to get out there and see, because it's only been, like you said, Hunter, a couple weeks. I've only had a chance to see a couple, but man, it's having been away from the sports scene for a couple years until taking the Spectrum News job, it's been pretty eye-popping to see, just as a reminder, what kind of talent this state offers, from the Open Division even to the middle tiers and on down. These kids can ball out here, man.
Yeah, and I think what's been nice to see is a little bit of the inroads being made by this current coaching staff at the University of Hawaii, and kind of building up some of those relationships, making some of those connections again, and hopefully getting some of those recruits to stay home, like John Kiawe Sagapolutele. You mentioned the quarterback over at Punahou, Josiah Timoteo, the offensive lineman at Waianae. Switching gears a little bit, BMAC, I know you, especially because of your background, having worked for Pacific Business News for a while, you've always got kind of a keen eye on some of the angles when it comes to the business side of things, when it comes to the operational side of things. And for the University of Hawaii, we talked about Ching, but a big part of this season is the fact that, hey, they can host full capacity games now, which they've never really been able to do. Heck, we were at games last year where there was nobody there, and that was brutal. But now that they've gotten to do that, the season ticket sales were online a couple of weeks ago. I know you had some reporting on that. Single game ticket sales went online basically yesterday, as we record this again on Tuesday to release on Thursday, and there were still some there. But what have been your impressions and kind of your reporting on how ticket sales have gone, the method in which they've sort of rolled this thing out? As the hope is obviously with the reduced capacity stadium to fill that thing in the 7 home games this year.
Right, Jordan. So, yeah, I did a little reporting in the off season about their hopes to have this TC Ching complex expanded for this season. The hope was that they could get it to at least maybe 12 and a half, with the ultimate goal to get it to 15K plus, not the least of which reason is because you need that level of annual ticket sales, I believe, to remain an FBS program without having to get a waiver every year. So that is certainly something that they're going to, I think, try to do in the next year or two, if not this coming season. But 2023 season. But as far as this year, Jordan, goes, yeah, they're on the cusp of being, right at that capacity of 9,000. I mean, when the season ticket sales only. The season ticket exclusive period ended over the weekend. There were only, I checked, their online system, a smattering of tickets available on kind of the edges of the Mackay sideline. So if you wanted season tickets, it was fairly down to the wire there. And then they opened up the individual tickets, as you said, and there were some more smatterings of tickets on, I think, either sideline and maybe in the Diamond Head side end zone. So there are still opportunities, at least, as of this recording, for folks to pick and choose what games they want to go to, but not many. I would not,
Great news.
Take your time. Don't take your time, because with the excitement of, this first year head coach, a local product, and Timmy Chang, and all the really hopes of a turnaround, not just for this particular team, but for the program after some of the difficulties they've had, from, the venue to the pandemic to difficulties with the last coaching regime. There's a lot of hopes, I think, for brighter days ahead. And, who knows if that'll happen on the field this year, but in the meantime, there's certainly an opportunity for being a part of perhaps a cultural turnaround, if not a win-loss on the field one.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, right? You got to capture people's attention. You got to make them want to be down there, and of course the winning helps with that as well. And if nothing else, you'll see Hunter on the sidelines working the ESPN Honolulu radio coverage. You'll see BMAC up in the booth with the media crew wandering around the sidelines as well. So that's, if nothing else, you want to go see these two guys down there, go get a ticket to
and Chris Brown tickets. Will be down there. Always worth the price.
Chris Brown, very much a draw as well when it comes down to it. And those muscles, just make sure to don't bump into him.
The Lion's Den, Jordan.
The Lion's Den. That is right. BMAC had a fun article talking with Chris Brown. Now you can check that out on Spectrum News as well. Hey, BMAC, we always appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining on the show. Your first time making an appearance. We won't make it the last. That is for sure. And we'll try to maybe not book you right after Coach Chang next time.
Hey, you can book me whenever you want, man. I'm happy to fill the gaps. And man, this went fast. Good talking with you guys.
Yeah, and I know we've been at this for a while. It's kind of the theme of our show. I can't believe we're at 51 episodes already, and somehow they haven't kicked us up.
We're gonna have to have you back for episode 101, man. We got Timmy Chang.
There we go.
For episode 100. So we got you slotted in, man. If you got nothing going, what is that? 50 weeks from now. So mark your calendar.
Yeah, just pencil us in. We'll maybe get you in there for like episode 74. Episode 92. We'll mix and match as we go.
I'm the chaser, man. Just bring me in after any prominent guest. Happy to clean up.
There we go. Hey, Brian, we appreciate it, man. We'll see you down at the field very shortly, as the season is seriously right around the corner. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, take care of you guys.
See you, BMAC.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, big thanks to BMAC for coming on the show. No pressure. You have to follow up Timmy Chang last week. When I was setting it up with him, he's like, "Is that the week after Timmy?" Yep. And I was like, "Yeah, it is. Don't worry about it." So it worked out quite nicely. But fun to talk to him, get a little different perspective as well. Somebody who's very much around the team, but kind of getting his take on how everything is going. And kind of interesting about the ticket sales as well, and kind of how they're setting this thing up. But fun to catch up with Brian.
Yeah, always good to talk with another member of the media, Jordan, to hear a different perspective from what you and I just talked about. Get a third set of eyes out there, see him at practice, going to see him down in the games and stuff too. And just like yourself, very connected with the local high school sports scene. So always appreciate that perspective on things, as myself doesn't get a chance to go to as much high school games. So really appreciate BMAC coming on the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to talk to him. Wanted to transition into some of the comments we got out there. Obviously, we got a lot of comments on the Timmy Chang interview. We got Hawaii Living dropping us a line on YouTube. A little perturbed by the fact that Hawaii finished last in their division in the Mountain West. He has higher expectations for this group, and says that they're gonna surprise some folks. K-Love, shortening that there, saying he can't wait for the 27th, showing some love there. We got some lines from Leonard from the Champ Show again. John, loving the Jeff Reinbold edition. And it's just pumped up there. James as well. A lot of folks, I think, that's kind of been the general sentiment. There's excitement. There's the buzz, and we're seeing that in some of the comments, seeing that from some of the or hearing that from some of the folks we've run into as well. But overall, a lot of folks, I think, enjoyed the Timmy conversation last week. So big mahalo to the folks for tuning in. Big mahalo to all those dropping us a line as well. Feel free every week, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I already mentioned Facebook, huh? Instagram, all the social media, Twitter. Just you find a way. Drop us a line. We're always happy to engage there. So quick overtime as well. We got all kinds of digital content, by the way, folks, on ESPN Honolulu. We got a bunch of different podcasts. We got the Cakey Ask Big Questions thing, which I think is pretty cool. They got the youngsters, young kids asking questions of some of the collegiate athletes, some of the high school athletes as well, which is pretty cool. But we also got Shakas and Swings, which just sounds like a good time. And my man Hunter Hughes, he's going to be doing the sideline reporting for the broadcast of the UH football games. He's obviously been carrying the heavy load of things on the Hawaii Football Now podcast. But you got to tell us about this Shakas and Swings thing, man. What is the deal with this? Man,
I wish you were doing it with me, Jordan. Let me just say that, because there is no such heavy lifting on my part. It's been a privilege to do this with you, man. But yeah, thankfully, I know a thing or two about golf, at least talking golf. Just like anybody, I can definitely have a bad day on the links, but we have yet to had a golf podcast with ESPN Honolulu, and the powers that be have decided to see if we can't make a go at this. And so Shakas and Swings is a Hawaii golf podcast where we have people from the community, the sports scene, the music scene on there, usually play a round of golf with myself. I don't know if you know this, Jordan, but since COVID in the United States, there's been 6 million new golfers. And so just a huge influx of attention around the game of golf, not to mention what's going on with the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour. Don't want to get into all that right now, but there is so much to talk about in the world of golf right now, as well as locally here in Hawaii. And it's a great time. My good friend Tamua Tuanei, we've got him set for a future episode. And it's kind of turning into hang out, talk a little golf, have some laughs, and have some swings, go play some golf. So if you haven't heard about it yet, please check it out on any of our ESPN Honolulu pages. We'd be more than happy to have you on the journey with us.
Yeah, basically, if you found this podcast, you can find the Shakas and Swings content. It's all in the same place. But yeah, go check that out. Enjoyed the first one. A little love for Kolohe Kai, right? You had Roman on. That was pretty darn cool. Talking about having to go on stage and every other hard hitting question out there, right? No, I think it is really cool, because in Hawaii, right, golf is huge, as you point out, since the pandemic in particular. But it's like you got everything from like pros, right? We have championship level courses in Hawaii. We've got a bunch of talent of guys that, are very serious and obviously very good at golf. And then you got the guys who are just out there on the weekends, just, the weekend warriors having fun, who don't keep score, but, maybe keep track of how many cans they have left at the end of the round for the recycling, if you know what I mean. So I think that's great, because as you point out, man, it really is. It's huge in Hawaii, and to have a little golf dedicated podcast, if you will, I think it's going to be a hit. So yeah, go check that out, guys.
Yeah, who knows? I hold the sentiment just like my family does. I'm currently back in Tulsa right now, Jordan. We've got a couple episodes in store from the Caddy Master from Southern Hills, the side of the 2022 PGA Championship. We've got another PGA professional from Tulsa But my family's always felt like golf is one of those things that can be shared regardless of skill level, regardless of age. It's really a beautiful game that you can share with anybody for your entire life. And I try to bring as many people on board from our football world, other sports, because it truly is a game to be appreciated by everybody. So that's kind of the heart behind the show. And if you guys felt like checking it out, we'd really be appreciated.
Awesome. Go check that out. Shakas and Swings with Hunter Hughes. He's got you covered there. And so if you haven't, but it's only once a week on the Hawaii Football Now podcast. So you got plenty of time to go check out both and go enjoy that one as well. All right. Big thanks to everybody again for tuning in, for watching, listening, however you're consuming this thing. Next week is game week, and we cannot wait. And it is going to be rolling from then on out for the next, 15 weeks or so of the regular season. Big thanks to Brian McInnis as well of Spectrum News for being our guest on episode 51. And a huge shout out and mahalo to our sponsors, Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union as well. Thanks to Jaron on the controls. Thanks to you, my man Hunter. And we'll see everybody next week as we gear up for Vandy. Hawaii Football Now. Aloha, everybody.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.